Hi, how you doing? Tonight I'm going to discuss The Force Awakenings. I'll warn you up front, if you haven't seen this, it's going to have a whole lot of spoilers. It's basically going to be all the things I had an issue with this movie. I really wanted to see this movie. I was excited to see it. When I finally did see it, I was extremely disappointed, and I'm going to explain to you why. You can let me know in the comments what you thought of it. If you had any disagreements with something I said, maybe another viewpoint, so we could discuss it. Maybe I'm wrong about certain things, but this is what I thought of it. So if you don't want to see any spoilers, you want to turn the video off. Okay. This isn't in any particular order. I probably could be structured better. I made a list of bullet points to keep track of the things I want to talk about, but I'm just basically making it up as I go along, so it's not really in a set order as all the events that happened in the movie. One issue I had was Rey can pretty much do anything. She's like the Superman of the movie. Basically, she's in this little tiny village structure on this planet that it's very basic. There's almost nothing there. They even said it's just supposed to be a junkyard. She's basically a slave. You know, everybody, you can see the other people are treating her like dirt. She's barely getting enough just to eat. You know, they're taking advantage of her. But she can fly a starship. She can speak Wookiee. She can fight like a trained soldier. She uses the Force instantly with no training. And it's just kind of insane how she's so good at everything with no training at all. She jumps into the Millennium Falcon and flies it without having ever done it before. She said it sat there for years. Even if she had trained on a ship, which if she never left the planet, she would have been on little small ships, not a large ship like that. But in this type of universe, there's many different planets, different systems. All the ships aren't going to work the same. But even if they did, just magically, they all worked exactly the same type of controls. The odds are this person that's never even left the planet could fly this thing and fly it well are very slim. She fights Sith with no training. He shouldn't even have had any trouble beating her. She effectively beat him, and if it wasn't for the magical timing of the chasm splitting in between them, she could have killed him. And there's nothing he could have done about it. He should have had no trouble beating her. You know, he didn't... once he actually got into conflict with her, he stopped using the Force. He should have been able to just kill her on the spot. He should have been able to freeze her again like he did before, or choked her out, or anything. I mean, even just using the lightsaber, he should have been able to beat her, because she never used one before. You know, you pick up a weapon you've never used before, and you go against somebody that's trained for years, even if it was only a couple of years, you're going to get beat. Whenever he fought with Poe before that, he didn't use the Force when he fought with him. He used the Force to throw her before he started fighting with him, then didn't use the Force against him. Why didn't he just freeze him and kill him and then go kill her while she was on the ground? The fight should have been over in 3 seconds. Another issue is they included that stupid weapon with the stormtrooper so that he was able to fight against the lightsaber. That the whole point of a Jedi and a Sith is that they're supposed to be a virtual, unstoppable force. I know, yes, in the newer trilogy they had those weapons, but I had issues with that. I had a lot of issues with those movies, but I'm not going to go into those movies right now. The whole point of those, though, is they're supposed to be scary people. Even the good guys would have been scary to a normal person, because they're basically a super soldier that can't be stopped, that has magic. And having a weapon that you can stand your own against one just kind of makes it worthless. Now they don't matter. That was one of the things with the original trilogy. Why Vader was scary. He was the boogeyman. He wiped out all the Jedi that they knew about. When he entered the battlefield, no one could stand against him. He could kill anybody, and there was nothing you could do about it. That's what made him so scary. You couldn't shoot him, you couldn't hit him, couldn't even get close to him. Even Luke, after having training, when he first fought him in the Empire Strikes Back, he got beat bad. Lost his hand, was getting hit with objects. I mean, he had no chance at all, and that's with training. So that, to me, was just silly. BB-8, one of the major points of the movie was he had this chunk of the map that they had to get to the Resistance. Why did he have this chunk of the map? R2-D2 had the rest of the entire map. Why is this one chunk cut out of what R2-D2 has, and this other robot has it? That didn't make any sense to me. R2-D2 should have had the whole map because he was on lockdown the entire time, and they acted like they couldn't access him. For some reason, he's in low power mode, they can't access him. Well, that in itself doesn't make any sense. They showed in the original movies, they can put a restraining bolt on him and force him to do what they want. They didn't even try that. So they can't access him, but somehow a piece of the map got on this other robot. So that didn't make any sense at all. Now, the Millennium Falcon sat for years without flying. When it finally does, Han just magically shows up. He just happens to be right there at the right planet at the time that this thing that sat for years just takes off. That doesn't make any sense. Even if he had a tracking system that once it took off that he could find it, he wouldn't have been right on that spot. The ship sat for years without flying. It should have had problems. If you're not maintaining a vehicle, they're going to have problems when they sit a long time. Now, this ship not only was sitting for years without flying, the door was wide open. Nobody was near the ship. Nobody was messing with it. Why is the door wide open? So now you've got an unsecured ship, apparently with the door hanging open for years, that requires no codes to take off. You don't need any kind of key, any security mechanism, no codes. All you have to do is jump in and take it. On a planet full of slaves with all these desperate people, how come nobody stole the ship? It's just sitting there wide open. That didn't make any sense either. When they did take off, he tells her to fly low because it messes up the tracking on a TIE fighter. What? That doesn't even make any sense. All of a sudden they can't track you if you fly low? They can't shoot you? No, that's dumb. Alright. Finn. Alright. They said Finn worked sanitation. He's basically a janitor. Alright, why are they going to take somebody from birth and train him to be a soldier for his entire life and then make him a janitor? And then just send him on a massacre mission for no reason. Were they short on regular soldiers? Why would you train him from birth just to be a trash man? You get other people to do that. You're not going to train somebody to be a soldier for 18 plus years and then have him do the trash. It doesn't make any sense. Well, why would you give all that training on combat when they would have to have thousands and thousands of soldiers to do the stuff you see in a movie? All these ships, entire planets and all that. And then they're just going to spend, 18, 20 years training somebody to be a garbage man. That's just such a waste of resources. Another issue I had was, if they weren't using clones anymore, why are all the stormtroopers humans? That didn't really make any sense to me either. You've got plenty of other creatures out and all these planets that are better than humans as far as combat. Why aren't you using them? Or even monsters. You never see that in any of the movies. I throw a couple Rancors out there or something. So they send him on this first mission that they go in and just massacre everybody, and so he doesn't follow orders. Now, from what they've showed in all the movies, the dark side doesn't forgive. Doesn't forget. Right? They would have just killed him. At least I think they would have. They didn't do anything to him. They didn't even hurt him at all. Their version of Darth Vader didn't even do anything to him. Darth Vader would have struck him down on the spot. He'd have just killed the guy. But even if they didn't kill him, they said that they were sending him back to get retrained. Didn't put any supervisors on him. Didn't lock him down somewhere. Just let him run around and do whatever they wanted. After he showed he won't follow orders. So now, you've got a guy not following orders, just running around loose doing whatever he wants. That's stupid. The bloody handprint. This was done for effect to show why he didn't want to be a soldier anymore, why he couldn't handle it, why he wanted to change sides. Blasters cauterize wounds. No one ever bled in any of the other movies after getting shot by a blaster that I can remember. You get shot, you got a hole in you, it's burned shut. You don't bleed. So, that was done for an effect, but it made no sense. Kylo Ren, he pauses a blaster bolt in the middle of the sky. That makes no sense. That's silly too. They were able to deflect bolts before. That makes more sense. Just pausing it. I'm just going to put it on pause, walk around, I'll let it go when I'm ready. No, that's dumb too. I mean, I don't even know how they got that in the movie. How somebody could have thought that was a good idea. That was stupid. Kylo Ren, he's able to pull information out of people's heads. Vader couldn't even do that. If you watch the original movie, he had to use drugs, torture, blackmail, and threats to try and get information from people. Whenever he had Leia, he couldn't even get the information from her. And she ended up lying to him when they did get the information. So, obviously, if Vader was so much more powerful and he couldn't get the information from somebody, how is this kid able to do it? The TIE fighter they steal, it's got a chain on it. That's insane. It makes no sense. First, why would it be chained up? It's on a military installation. It's not like people are going joyriding. If it was secured, it would probably be something like maglocks or something holding it down. No other ship in the series has ever had a chain on it. And if it did have a chain on it, the power that these things would have to be able to fly and take off, they would just snap it. If something strong enough to hold it down would have to be so strong that it would weigh the ship down. And that was dumb too. It's done to make them take longer to escape, and I guess it was supposed to be funny or something, but yeah, I thought that was silly. TIE fighter crashes. 2 people survive. It's extremely unlikely. All right. TIE fighters, they don't have shields, they're very lightly armored, they rely on speed and maneuverability to keep from getting damaged. And other than Vader's special TIE fighter, every other TIE fighter that's ever been hit blows up. They don't take damage. This thing, they're not designed to take damage. That's part of the whole point. They're supposed to be extremely quick. So they don't add in a lot of the extras that another ship would have. So them surviving is extremely unlikely. But even if we take into account, okay, they survived this crash for some reason, even though it was in space when it started to fall, and they had no control over the vehicle any longer, it didn't explode when it hit. They survived somehow. Post-chair had parachuted out. Why would a spaceship have a parachute? They wouldn't waste the space for something like that. It would never be used. It's a spaceship. They're not going to have parachutes. What are the odds of this thing crashing on a planet where they'd use a parachute? It's stupid. At most, they might have had like a rocket on the seat, and even that they wouldn't bother because it's going to take too much space and weight. The whole point of the TIE fighter is it's lightweight and minimal. So he wakes up, sees smoke, runs about a mile. So he ain't even hurt, but he runs about a mile, gets to the ship, has enough time to pull the jacket out, and steps back, and then the ship gets sucked into a sinkhole. Where's some more of that perfect timing we see a lot in this movie? It's that, he had to run a mile He should have been hurt, but even say he wasn't hurt. Say it took him 5-10 minutes to get there. And it happened to last just long enough for him to get the jacket out and back away before it sunk and exploded. Okay. Alright, now he's in the middle of nowhere. Looks around, there's nothing around him to show him where to go. Happens to pick the right direction that goes to the settlement. It's a small settlement. You could walk past it by just being slightly off course. But he happens to find it. Okay. So, and then, of course, he just happens to bump into the one person that's got the force that would help him. But, okay, we'll take that. Let's get back to Kylo Ren. He couldn't have had Vader's mask. It was blown up in the Death Star when the Death Star blew up. Luke didn't take his body with him. He left him on the Death Star because when he died. So he couldn't have had that. But, okay, they put that in just so they could show Vader's mask and show how much he was in love with Vader for some reason, even though he never met him and he grew up with his parents. Why he would have such a fascination with him, I don't know. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but okay. We'll go with that too. Alright. When you first see Kylo Ren, he's kind of aggressive and nasty. Okay. Then all of a sudden he starts to throw fits. He takes off his mask. He's just some young kid, which I thought he was too young. He should have been older. His parents were age. He should have been older than he was. But so you got this young teenage kid that, or at least it looks like a teenager to me, that basically throws fits and pouts whenever he gets bad news. He didn't attack, he didn't kill the soldier or anything like that. He sits there and damages expensive equipment like a kid. I didn't like it. He wasn't that intimidating to begin with, but he was okay when he had his mask on. Once he took it off and I could see him and he started throwing fits and stuff, I was like, this is just a teenager, just your regular teenager, anybody off the street kind of kid. He wasn't scary, wasn't intimidating. Should have had somebody older that could have done a more job, because he needed to be intimidating. Even if he wasn't fully trained and wasn't finished, he's supposed to be taking the dark side. That's supposed to be scary, not scary. So they make a new Death Star. Essentially, they call it the Planet Killer. It's more powerful. It can take multiple planets at once instead of just one. But it's the same thing again. It's the third time they made one. Let's do it again. All right. So they make a planet instead. Well, now you got a planet that's locked in orbit, killing its own sun. So once it kills that sun, the planet's going to be dead. But, okay, that's pretty flawed to begin with before it's even used. Alright, now you shoot the thing, and it's got to suck all the energy from the sun. It's got very little defenses. Once they took out the shields, there wasn't much defending it. It was easy to kill, like all the Death Stars have been so far. They had no real research on this thing before they hit it, though. But, alright, so you got a one-shot again, one-shot machine. They could have used all that resources and time they would have took to build this thing and technology, and just built armadas of ships and soldiers and weaponry, and just took out systems. It would have made more sense. It would have been a whole lot harder to stop. And if you could have made trillions of ships instead, because something that massive and that advanced would take forever to make, even with advanced technology. You could have made a whole lot of spaceships. Or even, and bought machines. That was just a whole waste of time. You're trying to show that they got this ultimate weapon again, but they're defective. You've done this before, it didn't work. You don't have any defense on this thing. That you should have never even been able to be close to this planet. Even once the shields were down, the fighters that were coming in should have never got close to the planet. They should have had more out there. You got a whole entire planet with nothing defending this thing. It would have made more sense to have made several of the old Death Stars instead of just this one planet-sized thing. They could have had half a dozen Death Stars that can move and use their own power. They don't have to have a sun to make power. That would make a whole lot more sense. They could just to do something like that. But all right. One of the big, huge scenes in the movie, the shocking scene where Han is killed. You knew it was going to happen. It was telegraphed so far in advance. Before they even got to the point, I was just like, hurry up and kill him and let's get on with the story, because I'm bored. You know the kid's going to kill him. It's foreshadowed. There's, it didn't have any value to it. It would have been different if it had shock value. Like, he was like, I'm sorry, Dad, I want to go with you. I don't want to be a bad guy. I don't want to be on the dark side. I want to go with you. Then he kills him all of a sudden. That would have had more shock value and made it mean more. The way it was done, it had no meaning because you knew it was going to happen. There was no shock value. And after he's killed, they start hollering and stuff. Nobody shoots at him or anything. It just more silliness. Whenever BB-8, when he shows up on the planet, the alien Tito has him. Being as he's a scavenger, he'd know how valuable this droid is. There was pretty much no arguing or resistance whenever she came over and took it from him. If this was presumably another slave like her, somebody so poor that they're barely getting food, he's not going to let her just take something so expensive with no fight, no argument. He would have fought. That didn't make any sense to me either. That's too valuable a thing. I mean, even like now, if a regular person, if there's $1 million laying in the street and you found it, another person comes up and says, hey, give me that. You're not going to give it to him. You're going to fight. Same kind of thing. She even said that he was an asshole and didn't care what anybody thought or anything. If he was such an asshole, why didn't he just let her take it? But all right. Another issue. Han decides to suddenly use Chewbacca's bowcaster. They've been together for an incredibly long time. All this time they've been together. He's never used it before. All of a sudden, he decides he's going to try it. Oh, I like this. Really? You haven't used it in the past, I don't know how long they've been together, 40 years or whatever? Okay. I know they put it in there just to be humorous, but, it wasn't funny. At the end, Poe is somehow still alive, even though he got sliced in the back with a lightsaber. Then Rey goes with Chewbacca to find Luke. Nobody else goes. Leia doesn't even go. If this guy is so important and they put so much effort into wanting to find him, why didn't they send anybody? They just sent some girl they don't know. They don't know who this girl is. She's just some girl that, they've known for 10 minutes. She's nobody. Why don't they send a couple of carriers full of soldiers out there? You don't know what kind of situation he's in, where he's at. The enemies could be going to the same spot because they were looking at the information also, so they could have been going to the same spot. But no, we'll just let the one girl and the Wookiee go. No one else. Okay. All right. Well, after seeing the movie, I was extremely disappointed. I thought it was kind of dull. It didn't bring anything to the franchise that wasn't already there. If you've seen the other movies, it was basically the same type of plot points put over. I've heard people say it was a remake of the original, essentially. The original was better. It had a very similar storyline, and pretty much everything type of situation was in the first one, but the first one did it a whole lot better. It had a lot more feeling. The story, the character development was there a lot more than this one was. They could have done a lot better with it. It didn't have the drawn-out, boring stuff that the newer trilogy had. I would say that I could watch it again before I could watch those, because they were pretty bad too. But I did like the fact they added more practical effects to it instead of it just being 100% CGI. But I was really disappointed. I'm hoping that the further ones that they make are going to be a lot better than this one was, because I just was really disappointed. That I was looking forward to seeing this so much, and when I did see it, I was like, it's a very mediocre film. If it was standalone, there's a whole lot of people that say they really liked it and everything. But I think if there was no other Star Wars, this came out by itself, this movie would disappear. Nobody'd pay any attention to it. They would watch it, go, and in a few years, nobody even noticed the movie. It would not have had that lasting effect that the original Star Wars had. Unless the next movies that come after this are really, really strong, this is just a flash into the pan. It just doesn't have any substance to it. But that's my opinion. Yours may be different. If you have different thoughts, please let me know. We can discuss it in the comments. See, maybe you've got a viewpoint with some opinions that are different than mine that may change my thoughts on it. But let's discuss it and see. And thank you for your time.